Hello everyone, TMMgamer here, and today I'm bringing you my long-awaited FIFA 12 tactical defending tutorial. Before we get started, there are just two things I'd like to say. I've tried to make this tutorial as detailed as possible, so hopefully I cover every single aspect of defending you are unsure about. And secondly, every single clip I use in this tutorial I have gotten in an online game, so that should be all the proof you need that there will be no easy cop-out clips and that every trick I teach you in this tutorial will work online as long as you perform it correctly. Let's get right on with the tutorial. This first part of the tutorial is going to cover a very common mistake I see people online. A lot of the time when you play a ball in behind the back four that the defender gets to first, the guy online panics and either hacks it clear or tries to turn around and ends up giving the ball away to the striker. The tactic I recommend you to do is completely the opposite. If the striker's close enough for you to be even slightly unsure of what to do, keep running away from the striker. 99% of the players online do not expect you to do that, and just that second's hesitation from that guy online gives you enough time to play the ball out. Now I've got a couple of examples here of what I mean. I'm going to play the first one for you and then talk about it a little bit more after it's run through. Now, as you saw there, just by running away from the striker for that split second gave me enough time to turn and pick a pass to the defender. If I hadn't have run away, I would have been forced either to play a very, very risky early pass or simply to hack it clear. So doing this gives you that crucial few more seconds time to react and then pick a better decision. You can't do this every time. Sometimes the ball just drops to you and you've got to get it away. But when you have a little bit of time to think about it, running up towards your own goal away from the striker really does enable you to make a better decision. And as you can see from this clip, it really does turn out to be something pretty special. Just to prove that wasn't a fluke, I've got a clip from later in that very same game. Now, as you can see here, the guy who's Arsenal breaks down the left-hand side and is in a position to knock a decent ball behind my back four. However, just like before, I take just a little bit of extra time to make my decision, pick the best option, which in this case involves passing it to my central defensive partner, and just like the first time, I get the opportunity to counter. And this is another perfect example of the fact that good defending does not necessarily mean negative play. If you can defend well, you can build more regular attacks because you've got the ball more often, and if you've got the ball more often, you can score more goals like this. And this is just the perfect opportunity to show you that being a good defensive player is not necessarily being a negative player. Let's move on with the next clip. This next part of the tutorial is all about defensive covering. Now, a lot of the time when you're playing online, your defenders and your defensive midfielders will push towards the guy with the ball to try and close him down. Now, when this happens, you will leave quite large gaps in your defensive line, and most of the time the computer will not plug them for you. So what this means is that you have to do it yourself manually with your player control player. This clip is a very, very good example of this. As you can see, the Manchester United player is beginning to advance towards my half, and as you can see in the bottom left hand side of the screen, my defence has got quite a large hole in it. So what I decide to do is, after I've put the initial pressure on the ball, I sit deep, and as I've sat deep, the guy plays the pass and my player controlled guy can sweep in, make the interception, and I can launch the attack. I'll play you the clip and I'll talk you through it a little bit more. A great intercept. As you saw from that clip there, just by playing a little bit more cautiously, taking your player control player, plugging the holes, covering the back line, you can get the ball a lot more easy than if you just chase shadows all day. This tactic takes a little bit of getting used to. It's quite difficult to run away from the ball, especially when you play on the line. You want that ball back and you want to launch attacks. However, if you just take it a little bit more cautiously, plug the gaps in your defence, your opponent online will give you the ball 99 times out of 100. You just have to play a little bit warily and he will give you the ball and you can launch counter-attacks as I did there. Really breaking into attack now. Once again, just to prove that wasn't a fluke, I have another clip of just the same tactic here. Now, as my attack breaks down, United are on the ball and I have a distinct disadvantage in manpower in midfield. So what I decide to do, instead of diving in, trying to make that last-ditch tackle, I sit deep, cover the gaps in my defence and put the emphasis on him to make a wonder pass. Now, 99 times out of 100, that guy will not make that pass and you will get the ball back far, far easier than if you tried to dive in and the guy skips past you, because if that happens, you're in a lot of trouble. Just by holding the guy up in midfield, you can buy time for your other defenders to get back into position and eventually put pressure on him to lose the ball, and that's just how it happens here. just to really drive home this point, I've got a third clip showing exactly the same tactic in action. Now, I think this is the most important thing in this tutorial so far. You really have to get this tactic nailed down because, as all of you know by now, it is a lot more difficult to accurately tackle players on FIFA 12 than it was on FIFA 11. So, if you can master this tactic of sitting deep and advancing at the right time to pick off interceptions, you'll have to tackle less and you'll be able to launch more effective counterattacks, because if you have a decent defender, when he intercepts the ball, he will bring it under control straight away. He won't have to run after it like he would in the tackle. So you have the opportunity with a few good passes to launch counterattacks. And several of the examples I've already shown you here in this tutorial show me sitting deep, making an interception and launching a counterattack. So I really do think this is a crucial part of general FIFA 12 play, not only defending, but in helping to launch counterattacks. Right, I think you've got the message, so let's move on. Now, no matter how well you defend, over the course of a game, occasionally you're going to make a mistake and the opposition are going to get in. However, as the clip pauses here, there is something you can do to stop them from getting an easier chance on goal. Whenever your defensive line is breached, what I recommend to do is run directly towards your own goal. That way, especially if the guy is slightly wider, you get to get in between him and the goal, force him wide, or force him to have an early shot. If you do any of those three things, you really do stack the odds in your favour. So even if your defensive line is breached, the way you defend and the way you move your players can dictate how easy a chance the striker gets. And as you can see from this clip, by simply following these instructions, it turns a potentially dangerous chance for my opponent into a relatively routine save for my keeper. Anyway guys, on that note, I think it's a good time to end this part of the tutorial. If this tutorial is a success, I will move on to set pieces, but set pieces is another quite in-depth tutorial, so what I wanted to do is give that its own little video, because if I tacked it on the end of this, it would be an afterthought, and I don't want it to be an afterthought. I want to spend a lot of time making it perfect. So I hope you've enjoyed this open play FIFA 12 tactical defending tutorial. If there is any areas you think I've missed, please don't hesitate to put them in the comments and I will definitely include them in my next FIFA 12 tutorial. So once again guys, thank you for watching and I hope you've enjoyed the video.